All right, today's reading is going to be from the Course in Miracles. I love this book because I'm a metaphysical practitioner, so I believe in physics. Some people call it spirituality. I call it physics. I find it very grounding to be in a scientific conversation about vibration, which is thought and emotion, and gravity. That's really what we're doing here. And everything boils down to a light versus dark conversation, which is simply this. When you turn on the light, it has a source of power, and darkness vanishes. The darkness doesn't have any mass and push back against the light. The brighter the light, the further the darkness dissipates. Light, love, and life are all the same for our purposes of physical or physics as a lens for reality. And then death, right? Death, darkness. And the opposite of love really isn't hate, it's apathy. But the opposites of those are all the darkness that literally just dissipates when the light turns on and has no mass, it has no source. So really in physics, we're always talking about what are we attracting? You're a little magnet. What are you attracting? The lighter you are feeling and thinking, the lighter the things you're attracting, and the more the darkness moves away. The more sad, the lower we're vibrating, the more the darkness moves in, and you need more light to turn it on to push it out. And that's really the entire experience of life. If you're bringing in happiness, if you're bringing in sadness, and how to deal with them, right? So for depression right now, for example, in our society, we give you a pill, but unfortunately what we need to do is be turning on the light in those people and getting them inspired, then you'll feel happy. What is inspired? In spirit. Depressed people have pinched off the light, which is their life force, their love, their happiness, and as such are experiencing a very stagnant, depressed vibrational state. I used to be there. I know it very well. Medication doesn't help you. It just keeps you there, and you really can't get to the stuff that you need to release to pop you back up. So I'm not going to get into a psych, you can take medication. It's none of anything like that. But it's an understanding of the treatment along with those things to help boost the being on a physics level, on an energetic level. Like you want to get your vibration going, and the biology will always follow because it's weird, right? You don't have any goo at your core, even though you go in a hospital, all they have is goo. But if you really get down to a root cause below the goo of a human, it's just space. It's atoms, and it's swirling electrons. And so that's really the conversation of power, always at the root cause. Okay, so the journey that we undertake together is the exchange of darkness for light. I'm just going to read a couple sentences because Course in Miracles stays on this track. The journey we undertake is the exchange of dark for light, for ignorance for understanding. Nothing you understand is fearful. It is only in darkness and in ignorance that you perceive the frightening. Isn't this interesting? So when you get into this, you go, okay, when I don't have knowledge, it's another metaphor for the dark light conversation, but it also works visually, that when I really am in darkness and I don't have knowledge, things get more frightening. Forms take on scarier view. This is what we're seeing in our culture right now in America, right? People don't have that much knowledge. They're not as educated. They don't know what's going on, and they're getting a lot of false information. And so it's making them more ignorant and more caught in darkness, which is increasing our fear, which is increasing the chaos we're attracting because we're doing it on a mass level. It is only in darkness and in ignorance that you perceive the frightening and shrink away from it to further darkness. And yet it is only the hidden that can terrify, not for what it is, but for its hiddenness. And this is the important thing. This is why the Bible could soothe this when you say God is loving and all-powerful. The idea here is everything that's known in truth is soothing, is safe, is full of ease because it comes from its source of love. The lack of love has no source. Only love has source, which means all the good things, kindness, compassion, care, ask and it is given. That is the source. So if you're feeling frightened or lost, it's only because you are not aware, that's the ignorance, right? Not aware of the truth of the loving nature of this reality. How literally nothing you have to do to access that. You are deserving just because you're here. There's no guilt, no shame. It's all grace. It's all self-inflicted guilt, shame, and punishment. I experienced a lot of punishment in my life. And that was one barrier to really getting into the law of attraction metaphysics conversation, because I had to realize that I had continued the cycle of punishment in my life. Like, sure, it got started strong. Sure, it came from my childhood, but I replicated that punishment cycle again and again. That was a lot of accountability to take to really get this sort of accountability, but now I can do whatever I want in my life, so it's worth it. I'm just saying, if you have a lot of difficult stuff in your life, Nick, I don't know if I want to take accountability for creating my life. Yeah, that sucks. I've done it. But it's so good on the other side. You want the control. You want to realize, because if you've created a lot of punishment and ugliness in your life, there's a positive side. You're also a really powerful manifester. I create like nobody's business. So that also motivates me to get my creation in line, because I create like good or bad very powerfully, and I want that to be balanced. So the obscure is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear and you would no longer be in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared. And this is important with conspiracy theorists. So from a metaphysical standpoint, okay, let's think about this as it applies to conspiracy. The obscure is frightening because you don't understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear and it would no longer be in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared, and so its value is unknown. So anyone that tells you, I know what nobody else knows, I know a secret, I've got special information, they don't. They're trying to sell you on the concept just of having that hidden information, which, if you get really deep into the spiritual study, is like a deep spiritual trick we're playing on ourselves. So always best to go, if it has hidden value, then I don't know its value. And you know what? If you want to believe it, that's great, but I don't need to fall for the trick of a hidden secret. The hidden is kept apart, but value always lies in joint appreciation. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. This is the other key point of metaphysics we don't want to acknowledge, which is we need each other. We're ultimately connected. We think there's space in between us, but there's all kinds of molecules. That's why it's so good to be in the physics conversation. To realize, oh wait, there's no space between us. There's all this stuff. We just can't see it. As humans, we love to go, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. But the more we study it, the more we realize, yeah, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It all exists. It's just we have certain senses. What we really don't realize is that what we choose to see and experience actively affects our perception. And we have that as woo-woo, but we know enough now to know that the brain is very much filtering the data that you're receiving. And we very much know that that's based on our thoughts and feelings. We can see as we work with people that certain people let in certain details of life and other people let in other details. You can't go through life without being in a relationship with someone and realizing that their filter is slightly different than everyone else's. We tend to think that by keeping things to ourselves, they become more true. But in every holy text, I'll reference the Bible, but it's in every one, it's that two minds are greater than one and that we're made to be in relationship. And this is actually really nailing this point in this reading. That's why I wanted to share it, is that what is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. The hidden is kept apart, but value always lies in joint appreciation. This is why things like fifth steps work in 12 step or ninth steps, which are the steps where you read your inventory of resentment to another person. The ninth step is where you go and make apologies to another person. There's something about the exchange. It's not about really that person. It's that the exchange of the mind, that when we both look at this and we can convert it to something that's loved, beauty emerges. We don't realize the power of thought. That's why physics is so important. Thought, feeling, gravity. It's really all your reality is about. When you love it, especially with another person, it literally transforms. Like our thoughts and feelings transform things on an actual physics level. Now, if you go watch What the Bleep Do We Know Anyway, they've studied this. They've literally taken water molecules and written hateful messages on them and seen them morph, and then written loving messages and seen them morph. They turn into happy cells versus unhappy cells just based on the messages written on the surface that they're existing in. So what we think activates molecules, it activates results. Like every doctor who's studying an experiment, How they think it's going to go is going to impact the result. So biological science doesn't work that way because we're missing the main piece that impacts the biology they're studying, which is the human consciousness that's actually studying and looking at it. Because of this, all of your ignorances, all of your beliefs, all of the things you keep hidden from yourself, the more you lie to yourself, filters how you experience the world to be faker and faker. So you continue to become more of an ideal actor in the world, and the world continues to return to you more of an ideal acting experience, and it gets more and more hollow, more and more fraudulent, more and more not satisfying because it's an act. That's because we've hidden so much from ourselves and other people as a goal of safety, and we can't find safety and relationship and comfort there. We have to walk back to being real and authentic. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it doesn't feel great, except when we're really in relationship with people, it feels flippin' amazing. And we all want that. We all want to be able to let our hair down and let other people off the hook and let ourselves off the hook. And it's like, hey, look at this. What do you know? Actually, if we both appreciate my real self as it is, I'm not going to be afraid of it anymore. I'm going to feel loved. And if we both laugh about how I tripped on something or I did something silly, like I'm no longer afraid of it. It's funny. Or if I look at the world and I'm able to, experience the growth happening in it, especially with another person, it will comfort me. Relationship matters, and in our relationships, we unhide the frightening things we're keeping in our minds and hearts from ourselves. Our friends, the people we journey with, you want to contract someone, whatever. These are the people that journey with us to those places, and unpack them and love them so they can come out in the open. And sometimes we can do that safely with friends. Sometimes we need something a little bit more. But anyway, I just wanted to come on and share that with you today. I love you. Thank you for being here. You matter. You're important. You're an important part of my journey. Whether we meet or exchange information at all, vibrationally, we are connected. And I hope this message, especially focused on the physics nature of who you are and what makes you up, that you get more clarity and peace today as you move through your day. Be well.